In this video, I'm going to show you how to achieve more with 2 hours of work than most people do with 8. So let's give an example of what most people can achieve in 8 hours of work. Most people will have their phone in front of them, constantly going off with notifications. Every notification will take up about 15 minutes of your focus, about 5% of your brain power for that 15 minutes, which, once we do the math, is absolutely horrifying. And like after 10 notifications, you are 50% brain dead. So, a lot of people also have another habit during their work, which is checking their email constantly. That is a very dangerous habit that is commonplace in office jobs. In fact, is part of the culture where you must check your email every 10 minutes because it has to do with your work. But this is a massive distraction because you are basically giving yourself other tasks to respond to. And the solution to this actually is just to batch your emails like every 1 or 2 hours. But we'll get back to that later. Another thing that most people do is focus on mindless and unimportant tasks that aren't actually giving them results. So there is something called the 80-20 rule, where you focus on 20% of the tasks that give you 80% of the results. And a lot of people are focusing on that 80% of tasks that's giving them 20% results, which is why they can't output any meaningful work. So there's a book about this. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport, and he teaches us how to stay focused during work and how to output the most quality work possible in a shorter time frame than usual. And so the thing for deep work is that we must sit down with no breaks for a 2 hour or so period, and we must just work. And the way that we stay focused is that we can't have our phone near us because, like I said, the notifications are gonna be killing our brain, and we can't be checking our emails. We can't have people constantly walking up to us, which that's another thing. In order to avoid that, your deep work must be done at an hour of the day where nobody can bother you. Because, for example, you could have family obligations after school, so you don't do it right after school. You can do it either before school in the early mornings, like I am right now, or you can plan to do it in the late evening, but you have to make sure that it lines up with your sleep schedule well, because we don't want to be sacrificing sleep for work. If you do sacrifice sleep for work, your work output will be much worse, and you shouldn't do it. So here is a part where a lot of people are going to start to disagree with me. The maximum amount of work a human can do is 4 to 6 hours of deep work. This is, however, for the most advanced people at deep work. So as you're only starting off, you start with 1.5 to 2 hours. And trust me, with how much focus and energy deep work takes up, you will feel like you have done way more work than when you do, for example, your 8 hour day at school or 8 hour day at work. So this is a very common technique used by authors because it's the only way for them to work. Obviously, authors can't work on a 9 to 5. They have to stay focused on their book, and they know this. But what we don't know, what the masses of people don't know, is that this applies to any career where you have to output work, and that decides your success. Because obviously, for some careers like teachers, policemen, and other careers where it's not where you can't optimize your knowledge work by time, this obviously doesn't apply. So we um, so once again, deep work. We can't have our phone in front of us. In fact, a study shows that if you have your phone in front of you while working, it is a bigger distraction than if you are literally high right now. Imagine this: you could have weed before you work, and you would still be more focused on your work than if you had your phone in front of you. So, once again, yeah, personal obligations where, for example, your family is telling you to do something, because every time you get distracted by one of these miscellaneous things, one of these tasks, you will instantly lose brain points. And for example, let's quantify this with 100 brain points. We get two notifications, that's 10 brain points. If we check and respond to them, that's another 10. If, let's say, our mom walks into the room and asks us to throw out the garbage, that's instantly another 10 brain points, because very importantly, we're thinking of another task that we have to do for later, so we can't focus on the task that we are doing in the present moment. Now, and one more step, right, is that we have to log our hours of deep work to check what is doing better for us. For example, you can switch it up and experiment for the first months of doing deep work. Like, for example, whether you do it in the evening or morning, whether you do it fasted or full, and record the differences with your performance. Which an example of this would be for me. Okay, today I worked 1.5 hours. I scripted 3 videos. I recorded 7 videos, and another day I worked for 1 hour. I scripted 3 videos. I recorded 2 videos, and with that tool, you will be able to tell which variables you need to change in order to have them be in your favor, and to have you be able to output the best possible work while having the most fun and spending the least time on it. So, another thing that is pretty crucial for most jobs is shallow work. This is work that we can do without necessarily being focused, that we could just do while we're scrolling on our phone or eating food. But I highly suggest that we multitask this shallow work, because if you just have them spread out throughout the day and you do them like hours apart, it is going to feel like you're on the clock the whole day. So after you're done with your deep work, immediately, right, you could even plan this the night before. Find all the shallow work that you need to do for the day and multitask it. And then, or even like if it's more significant shallow work like doing homework, then obviously don't multitask it. But after that, you can do something called a shutdown ritual, where you basically stop yourself from working the whole day, and then you're no longer your profession, you're just a person. So I'm no longer the YouTuber, I am just Mark, you know. And now you won't feel so overworked because you're not on the clock the whole day. Your work day has transformed from, well, 16 hours to 4 hours with that one step. And another thing is, you're like, what do I do the rest of the time? Well, you can be outside in nature, you can be reading books, learning about how to improve your work, you can be spending time with family and friends, but don't resort to bad habits, because we want this time away to be rest and not stimulation. We want it to be something that can invest in our future, because imagine the author that after his work he goes out in nature and spends time with his family. His work the next day is going to be much more powerful and meaningful than the author who just stays inside and then watches YouTube for entertainment. And that's about it for today. Embrace progress, not perfection. See you.